Hi, everyone, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or here on Instagram. Happy Saturday, everybody. How you doing? I'm Scott, and I really appreciate you joining me today. We do this 7 days a week at this time. It's your daily distinction, and we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that we're facing during this incredible pandemic, some of the opportunities perhaps that might go along with that. It's not about being Pollyanna. It is about taking off our rose-colored glasses and seeing what we can do during this challenging time. So if you're new to watching, this is something that we do every day at this time, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Some days I have guests on with me. This week we had Larry Winget, 7-time New York Times best-selling author, frequent Fox News contributor, just an amazing, all-around awesome guy. And we also had Glenn Morshower. He's one of those guys that when you see him, you go, oh, that's that guy, right? I know that guy because he's appeared on so many movies and television programs. 24, he had a major role as Agent Aaron Pierce. He's just been on so many things. So anyway, if you're not used to watching, this is where we are. And I'm seeing a lot of folks on Instagram. And hi to the folks joining here. Hey, Ted Stark, always great seeing you. You are a regular, man, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I really, really am happy that you're here. Jerry, another week of house arrest. Have you seen the commercial? I love it. It's I'm drawing a blank on her name. She's on was on Saturday Night Live, and I can even tell you that she's Gwyneth Paltrow's best friend. But anyway, it's for Sling, and she's taped the garage door opener to her ankle in the commercial, and she's acting like it's a home detention device, telling her husband that she can't leave. She's got to stay home and watch television. Now, the funny thing is, that was pre-pandemic. Now it's all of us, right? So it's us under house arrest. That's for sure. Hey, Carrie, great to see you. I appreciate you being here as well. Thank you so much. Carrie is one of the early and best supporters of the program that we do on Sunday night. So I'll tell you about tomorrow night. And Carrie, thank you. It's great to have you here. The Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott is on every Sunday night at 8 p.m., 5 o'clock Pacific. It's Ken Walls and Glenn Morshower, the actor that I was talking about just a minute ago. They were getting ready to launch a show, and I happened to come across them. They asked me to join them. So the three of us do a show every Sunday evening. It's about a 90-minute show. Some weeks we have guests. We had a guest last week for our first show. We are not going to have a guest this week. Three of us going to talk about what's going on. So would love to have you join us. It is Sunday at 8 p.m., and that is, of course, 5 o'clock Eastern. So great to have you here, and thank you for being here. And hey, Jeff, I owe you a call. Jeff, one of the things I want to talk about today, it relates to the fact I missed your call last night. One of the things that Tammy and I have realized is it's very easy to be home together alone. I know that sounds strange. Here's what I mean by that. In this time where we are working remotely, in this time where we are working, many of us working out of our homes, one of the things that's easy to do is for me to get locked in the office and Tammy to be working downstairs, and for the entire day to go by, and then we realize we haven't connected, even though we're in the same house at the same time. Does that make sense? And then because the time difference between Las Vegas and where we're from in Indiana, Tammy's from Northern Indiana, I'm from Southern Indiana, because the time difference, it's about time for dinner, the phone rings, and it's Tammy's family calling to catch up, or it's pals of mine from wherever, Jeff's in California or buddies in Nashville or wherever they might be. And so they call, and then we start watching a television show, and it's time to go to bed, and we realize we haven't even had a conversation. So one of the things that we did last night, and one of the things I'd encourage you to think about, is we took our phones, took them upstairs, put them in the charger, and went back downstairs and had dinner and watched television together. And we couldn't answer the phone because we didn't even know it was ringing. And I think that's one of the things that we need to think about during this time as we're going through this. Now, look, I realize I've heard from some folks that they're together so much that one will go they'll make a schedule, and one will go in the backyard while the other stays in the house, so you can just have some alone time. That may be your issue. If it's not, if you're going through something like what Tam and I are going through, one of the things that I think you need to consider is carving out some time so that you don't spend this entire pandemic home together but alone. So consider that and think about that. It might be something that you'd like to consider as part of what you do. So that was one of the things, Jeff, and I will get back with you. That was one of the things that I realized is pretty important. Hey, Charles is with us today. The time has helped me keep a schedule of sorts and it's gotten better each day. Yeah, well, thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. I've got a message from somebody else the other day. Said, this has been kind of an anchor in the sense that they're anchored. It's something they're going to do every day at 3:00, and by having a schedule, it makes it seem more like normal. And that's part of what we want to be talking about as well. So thanks to everybody that's writing in. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Happy Saturday to you as well. Hey, thanks, Ted. How cool is that, Ted? I appreciate that. Glenn is unbelievable. He is just such an incredible communicator in what he does in acting, and the way that he goes into different voices and different characters and how he does that. I have such abundant respect for that. He's such a modest, super guy. So thank you very much. Hey, Phil, always great to see you and be with you. Yeah, Pam, I love that too. Another week of house arrest. And it is helpful to disconnect. Yeah, Ted, I didn't mean that we didn't need to disconnect. And I hope I expressed that properly. But I also want to make sure that we're not so disconnected that you and people in your house are operating in their own orbit and never even connect on that. This thing disconnects from my body. Yeah, sooner or later somebody will take it off, right? That's there you go. Hi, Rita, great to see you as well. So thanks everybody for being here. I want to talk about a couple of things today for our Saturday, and that is, it seems challenging during this time to understand that no one is immune. I'm not talking about the virus necessarily. What I'm talking about is the challenge and the pressure and the worry and the stress of the situation that this pandemic has caused. In other words, while we might disagree about proper practices or immunity or whatever, the fact is that none of us have been immune from the ramifications caused by what we're dealing with. That means that everybody is under more stress and pressure than what they were just a few weeks ago. Make sense? I mean, no matter what you do, no matter what your business is, you might be retired, whatever it might be, there's more pressure on us personally. There's more pressure on us financially. There's more challenge in so many ways that this becomes an extraordinarily difficult time. So what happens during difficult times? Well, sometimes, because it is such a difficult time, one of the things that we do is that we often look at the short-term answer as opposed to the long-term solution. Does that make sense? We're under such pressure. We want this to be fixed, and we want it to be fixed now, and we want to do what it takes to make sales or get back on track or get our business going or get our lives back in order. We want to do whatever it takes to get going again. And sometimes what makes things happen in the short term is exactly the wrong thing for the long term. That's what we have to be thinking about, because I truly believe what we do during this particular time is going to be long remembered. The way that you treat a customer, the way that you deal with your team, the way that you communicate with your family is going to be remembered long after this pandemic has passed. And what we have to do is to think long-term, not short-term, but that's even more difficult when you have folks that are facing challenge and change and pressure and stress. So how do we think long-term? Well, the first thing is just to discipline ourselves to think about it, right? To think about it. And how we go about it is going to be of critical importance. So first of all, no one is immune. The short-term answer might not be the best for you long-term. Let me give you an example. One of the things that we often do during a time of challenge and change in a situation like this is to take the plan we were already working on and think, if I just work harder. We work harder on the plan that we've already created, even though the situation around us has changed dramatically. Even though the situation around us, there's been a sea change in what the world is, we take the plan we already had and we want to start working harder on it. I want you to consider that. Working harder on the old plan may not be the right answer. In fact, if the old plan now has become the wrong plan, working harder on the wrong plan doesn't take you where you want to go. Can I repeat that? Because that is something I have to remind myself of all the time, and it's something I think that we all need to be reminded of. It doesn't get you where you want to go to work harder on the wrong plan. There's the old line about, if you find yourself in a rut, what do you do? And the answer is, first, you stop digging. Right? If you're in a rut, first thing you do, stop digging. And what I see is that many of us we are under such challenge and change and pressure and stress that what we want to do is, boy, we want to get with it. So we start working harder on the old plan. And in the old plan, I'm going to suggest to you, may very well be the wrong plan. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a step back. Let's first of all, and Charles says it very well here, let's focus on those things that we can control. There is probably less under our control. That's one of the changes, right? Charles, would you agree? That's one of the changes, is there are fewer things, or perhaps we should say different things that we can control right now. So I'm going to go back to one of the oldest things in the book, right? One of the oldest things in the world, and that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you've studied any type of psychology, if you've studied any type of anything, you've seen the old thing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what it says is there's a progression of needs that we go through as a human being. And in the bottom of the pyramid, the base of the pyramid is, what does it take to keep us alive? Do we have enough food and water and air? The basics of survival. Okay. So that's the bottom of the pyramid. Then you go up one spot and it's security needs. Do I have a roof over my head? Do I have a degree of security in my life? Am I able to take care of my family? Those. Then next are the social needs. Am I engaged? Am I involved? Am I liked? Do I have friends? Do I have colleagues? Those kinds of, and the highest of the pyramid is self-actualization. Are we contributing? Are we doing something above and beyond ourselves? Okay, that's so basic. Everybody talks about that. That's the oldest thing in the world. But what we often have forgotten during this pandemic is many of us have moved down the pyramid rather than up. The assumption is that in normal times, we move our way up the pyramid, right? Look, very few of us in the United States, at any rate, and we've had viewers all over the world. We were chatting with Jeff in Ecuador yesterday. Many of us have never had to worry about, do I have enough food and water and clothes and air to survive, clean air to survive, right? That we have been so blessed that those are not on our worry list. But you move up, and do I have enough to take care of my family? Do I have enough to take care of myself? Going to have a roof over my head? With so many homeless, there are many people that are dealing with that. But most of us are kind of, we kind of enter in somewhere in that second stage or the third stage. Am I liked? Do I have friends? Am I respected by my colleagues at work? Those kinds of things have become where we kind of start out. And then next is, am I important? That's the next one up the list. Am I important at what I do? Not only am I liked and but am I important? Am I respected? Okay, so here's the problem. If the old plan is selling people at the third or fourth stage of that pyramid, or engaging with people at the third or fourth stage of that pyramid, but they have dropped down to safety and security, think about that. In other words, they're worried about different things now than they were 8 weeks ago. What we're worried about now is, do I have enough savings? How much cash do I have? When is this going to end? What is it? So if we are out there trying to deal with others where we used to deal with them at the pyramid, And and now they are at a lower part on the pyramid. We've not connected. We've missed each other. And so a fundamental challenge for us is going to be that we got to communicate where people are. In other words, we can't communicate with where we are. That's part of the basic element of communication. We have to communicate with people where they are. So one of the ways that we stop digging the rut, one of the ways we stop digging a hole, is that we stop communicating like we did and communicate with what relates to now. Here's the most obvious thing that you're going to hear. What a time of change. It's an incredible change. The problem is most of us assume that people hate change. But the evidence from research tells us it's not that people hate change. They hate the unknown that accompanies change. In other words, for you to change when you know what the outcome is going to be, you get excited about that, man. That's very cool, right? If I'm going from here to there and I know the result's going to be great, I can't wait to get started. But if I have to go from here to there and I don't know what the result's going to be, or I don't even know the pathway, I don't even know the road to get there, that's our problem. That's what we get stressed and pressured and upset about. So what that means is when we're communicating with people, we have to recognize that they are dealing at a lower level because they are dealing with so much unknown, and the safety and security and challenge and issues and problems, that's where they are. So we have to deal with people where they are, not where we are necessarily. We have to deal with people where they are, not necessarily where they want to be. We got to change how we're talking and change how we're communicating. And that's part of what we're doing here is trying to give you, an anchor every day, as you mentioned, Ted, in terms of thinking about what are some of the things we need to do. So my question for you is, how do you need to change what you're doing right now to make certain it applies to this time right now? Don't work harder on the old wrong plan. Now is the time to be planning about how do you deal with people that are worried about safety and security issues? How do we deal with people who might not have the financial resources to make it as long as this thing could possibly go on? How do we communicate with people that I think one of the challenging things that we haven't talked about enough in business particularly, and I know that not all of us are here to talk about business, but let me use it as an example. We tend to think of our salespeople as being those who sell. One of the things I notice now is the most important salespeople that most groups have. Tim, I noticed you just came on. I think the automotive industry is the perfect example of this. The most important salespeople at a dealership right now, for an automobile dealership, for example, using that as the metaphor, not just for them, but for everybody, using that as the example, is now their service department, not their sales department. In other words, the sales for that dealership is going to come more from the folks in the service department, talking to customers and helping. The showroom's closed. That's a change. How do you deal with that? It's not by having salespeople call more prospects on the phone. It's by having your service department communicate and know when the lease is up, for example, or to make recommendations or to communicate and to help in ways that help the dealership. It's the first time ever that the best salespeople at an automotive dealership are not the salespeople. We got to change how we think, and we got to change how we approach. And it is a challenge for all of us. Hey, here's Tim. Yeah, third day of 5. That's pretty great, Tim. Hey, and I saw your picture earlier on Facebook. That's a cool mask as you're out and about, as you're riding your motorcycle. That's very, very cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, Charles, it's about sharpening and being more precise in our communication. Phil is a communication expert, and selling is Phil has a fabulous definition here. Selling is communicating in a way to produce a mutually agreed upon response best for all parties. Man, if there's a better definition of sales, I haven't heard it. That is spot on, my friend. That is so good. Ted, we do, in a sense, we have to change our message to be relevant with what's happening in the world right now. And I see so many salespeople out there right now who, you know what they're doing? They're just taking the same message that they had before this happened, and they think, boy, if I just say it more times, and if I just do it more times, and they're continuing to dig that rut. Put down your shovel. The shovel is not the tool that you need right now. It's a different tool entirely. Yeah, the showroom's closed. Tim, absolutely. My biggest client right now is Volkswagen Group Australia. And I go down there, or have been going down there 4 times a year, speaking to their everything from dealer principals to service managers to sales professionals. And one of the things they even had me do is to go into the dealerships that win their awards and do a day of coaching and training in dealerships. And man, I'll tell you, it is. I've still been communicating with them, and it is certainly a time of incredible, impactful change. And with the showrooms closed, who's communicating with your customers? It's your service departments. And I think that's true. I don't mean to be too specific about automotive here. It's not just automotive. It's all of us. I mean, who are we talking to now? It's not the salespeople to a great degree. It's the helplines and the service people, or it's the folks at the drive-through. Before, where a waiter might get us to come back to a restaurant because they remembered our name or they remembered our drink or whatever. Now it's the person answering the phone taking our order, or it's the way that it's packed when Uber Eats or DoorDash delivers it. For example, if I had a restaurant and my food, my product was being delivered by somebody else, like Uber Eats or DoorDash or Grubhub or Postmates or whomever, I would put a handwritten note with every order. I would put a handwritten thank you note with every order. And I would make certain that there was a way to connect personally with every customer to let them know how much I appreciated their order, even though they couldn't enjoy the experience. I would probably put something in there too about, if you enjoy this food, wait until this is over and you can have this food and the superior experience that we deliver at the XYZ restaurant. We can't wait to see you then, and we can't wait to continue to serve you in your own home. I would put that in every order. But we get so busy doing what we do, we don't take time to think about what we do. And that's why I'm saying we should not waste a good crisis. I love that, Patricia. Put a note and a nice roll of toilet paper in there. By the way, I don't know if she is watching. Patricia, thank you. That is awesome. I don't know if she is watching, but the doorbell rang yesterday. We opened it up. There is a box, and it said YFC on the side, not KFC. It wasn't Kentucky Fried Chicken. It said YFC on the side of it. And YFC stands for your favorite cousin. Okay, so let me back up. There were 12 boys and girls in my dad's family, 9 boys, 3 girls. And so my sister, Shelly, and I have a plethora of cousins. So this one is saying your favorite cousin. And I open it up, and she had found in Indiana toilet paper and had bought toilet paper for Tammy and me and shipped us 12 rolls of toilet paper. I can literally say my cousin Geraldine, my favorite cousin now, perhaps always, but my favorite cousin, Geraldine, literally saved my butt. So thank you, Geraldine, for that. and I appreciate it greatly. But that is so cool. Let's see. The car dealer Pam sent a valet over this week to pick up your car for a recall. Smart on their part. You're ready for a maintenance check. It costs you, but it's revenue to them. It's great. Yeah, it's absolutely great customer experience, great customer service, which is exactly what we ought to be doing, exactly what we need in this particular time. Hey, Bonnie, I saw that you were on Facebook. I also saw that you jumped in on Instagram as well. So thanks for the shout out there. I appreciate it. Charles, yeah, we made the change in our messaging. Charles is one of the subscribers to something called Idea Shots that Larry Wingett and Randy Pennington and I do. And it's just a monthly idea or bi-weekly idea for you in business. And he's a subscriber. That's a subscription-based thing. And Charles is a subscriber for that. And man, we had all these things recorded about ideas, and we'd recorded a bunch in advance. And we said, we can't send those out, right? The world has changed. So we went back in and we re-recorded to make the message relevant to what's going on now. And That's what we've got to do, is just quit digging. Yeah, exactly. That's the new paradigm, Pam, as Tim is saying about car dealerships. It's so good. The restaurants operating right now are very appreciative of everyone's business. Rita, you are so right. They are appreciative. One of the things I would suggest is that they do a little bit better job of expressing that appreciation. Not many of them do. Please don't misunderstand. Many of them are doing a great job. I would just make certain. Yeah, well, I got to tell you a quick story. When I was a kid, the Crothersville band, and because there were so few kids in our school, kids in junior high also got to be a part of the high school band. They just needed the bodies. They needed the players, right? So I'm a sixth grader, and the band needs new uniforms. Band really didn't have uniforms. So we are going in our small rural community to try to raise money so that we could buy band uniforms so that we could march in parades in our area. So I'll never forget going to one store in our town. It was called the Dime Store in our town. And I went in to ask the owner of the Dime Store to contribute money to help us get band uniforms. And as I went in, they said, the person I was talking to said that the owner wasn't there, but if I would tell him what I needed, he would relay it to the owner of the Dime Store. So I made this very passionate pitch on how new uniforms for the band would help us march in regional parades and would help get notoriety for our community. It would be great for Crothersville, and it wouldn't be a wonderful thing to see your school and the kids in new band uniforms. And I gave the whole spiel. And I went out and I got in the car, and my mom had waited on me while I went in, and she said, "It's very interesting that you just hired a salesperson." And I didn't know what she meant. I said, what do you mean by that? I didn't hire a salesperson. And she said, well, who's going to make the decision about giving money to the band? And I said, well, it's the owner of the store, right? I mean, that's the owner of the store is going to make. And she said, so by not saying you'd come back and talk to the owner, but by telling that person to tell the owner, you have now made that person your salesperson. Whether or not the band gets money now depends on how another person tells your story. And I have never forgotten that, because they didn't give money to the band, because I didn't get a chance to tell my story. I got somebody else to tell it who wasn't as committed as me. So what we have to do is understand. Now, why do I tell that story? In a way, it gets back to the restaurant thing. If it's Uber Eats that's showing up on time with a smile on their face as I see them as they're ringing the doorbell and the food is hot and I might think it's Uber Eats that I need to be loyal to, as opposed to the restaurant. So if I'm the restaurant, I better make certain that I am telling my appreciation to the customer and not depending on the middle person, whether it's the person at the Dime Store or the person with Uber Eats, to make certain that the customer knows the sale has been important. We can't entrust that out. We can't farm that out. We can't make that what it should be. Patricia, cousins do make life wonderful, don't they? You are so right. That's so good. Hey, Pam, your liquor store's been, have you seen alcohol consumption is up like 50%? I don't know if my buddy, Derek Kinslow. Derek is the road manager for the Oak Ridge Boys, and Derek watches many days. And he sent a meme today, and it said, can anyone suggest a good breakfast wine? I thought of you, Pam. Can anyone suggest a good breakfast wine? I thought that was pretty cool. So, yeah, I saw someplace. Did you see the liquor sales are up like 50%? Oh, wow. Anyway, there you have it. So that takes care of us for today. I hope you enjoyed I was telling a story about band uniforms, and thank goodness at least I didn't start at one time at band camp. Anyway, yeah, same is true when someone tells us just to email. Yeah, you're right, Joe. Joe, you were so right. And we just email them the info, and a lot of times we don't follow up. We've got to communicate as people are today. Thank you, Rita. I appreciate that. Hey, before we go, I got a couple things to remind you of. And that, of course, first of all, is that the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott is going to be here at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific on Sunday. I love doing the show. I think you're really, really going to enjoy it. The other thing is that Distinction Nation is where you can get free resources, a free 14-day audio program on creating personal distinction. That would be a great thing to be working through during this time of change. It helps you align your priorities and your values with your goals and your specific daily actions. It's absolutely free. It's my gift to you for listening and viewing the show. It's there. And don't forget, on Monday is the day. My great pal Dana Williams is going to be the guest. Dana is one of the founding members of Diamond Rio. Diamond Rio is one of, those guys are great friends of mine, perhaps, but it's the same 6 guys. There has not been any change in the band for 30 years. Isn't that incredible? I mean, it never happens. That is so cool. Dana is so great. We'll get him to talk about the career in country music. 6 times they were Country Music Group of the Year. They won a Grammy Award, multi-platinum, multi-million selling artist. He's going to be with us on Monday. And part of the reason is a serious reason, because think about musicians. Speakers are kind of in the same ballpark. The world just shut down for us. There aren't any concerts. There aren't any meetings. Everything is shut down. So we're going to be talking about, what do you do with your attitude? Dana told me the other night, he mows the lawn whether it needs it or not, just trying to do something. So we're going to be talking about those challenges and changes and all that kind of good stuff, and just have a great time with Dana. That is coming up on Monday. So hope you go to Distinction Nation. Hope you check us out on Monday so you can see Dana, and we're going to have a great time. And I'll be back here again, same time tomorrow. I appreciate you being here. It's my privilege and my honor that you are a part of this. So see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks. Have a great day.